Hello everyone. In today's class, we are going to discuss a novel, The Scarlet Pimpernel. It's written by Baroness Orczy. Today we will be discussing the next 5 chapters, chapter 6 to 10. So let's get started. Let's see the characters of chapter 6 first. Sir Percy Blakeney. Sir Percy Blakeney, he is the husband and protagonist of The Scarlet Pimpernel. He is a baronet in British aristocracy, and he is the richest man in England. Next one, Margaret St. Just. Margaret St. Just is Sir Percy's wife and Armand St. Just's sister. Margaret is an ardent Republican, and equality of birth is her motto, like her brother. Armand St. Just, he is Margaret St. Just's brother and a citizen of the French Republic. Armand and Margaret St. Just are extremely close to each other. Their parents died when they were just children. The Vicomte de Tournay, our next character, who is the son of the Comte and Comtesse de Tournay and brother to Suzanne. Sir Anthony Dewhurst, he is the member and the League of the Scarlet Pimpernel. Mr. Jellyband, who is the owner of the Fisherman's Inn, and Sally's father. He is worthy and an honest man. Sir Andrew Fawkes, he is a member of the League of the Scarlet Pimpernel. Let's see the summary of chapter 6 first. Name of the chapter is An Exquisite of 92. So this chapter begins with the description of Sir Percy Blakeney. He is young, tall, above the average, broad-shouldered and powerfully built with deep-set blue eyes. But his inane laughter disfigured him physically, or his strong physical appearance. Sir Percy Blakeney, who is a baronet, he is one of the richest men in England, leader of all the fashions and intimate friend of the Prince of Wales. His wife is Lady Blakeney. She is a French Republican who is beautiful, fascinating and clever. Margaret St. Just is Lady Blakeney's maiden name. She is lavishly gifted with beauty and talent, looked after by her younger brother, Armand St. Just. Margaret St. Just is a Republican by her principle and conviction. Equality of birth is her motto. The only inequality she admits is that of talent. According to her, money and titles may be hereditary, but brains are not. When the cleverest woman in Europe, that is Margaret St. just married the dull and stupid man named Percy Blakeney, she has been criticized by her intimate friends. They all thought that she married him for the worldly pleasure. But actually, that was not the right reason of their marriage. Margaret St. Just didn't care about money or title. Percy Blakeney spent most of his life abroad. Percy lost his parents at the very young age itself. His father, the late Sir Algernon Blakeney, had the terrible misfortune on seeing his young wife become insane after 2 years of happy married life. So Percy's father took his mother abroad and he was educated there itself. And he has grown in between imbecile mother and a distracted father. Everyone around Percy Blakeney knew that he was hopelessly stupid. He was very proud of his clever wife. But Margaret treats her husband with a kind of amused contempt. Physically, he was handsome, but he always appears with lazy and bored look. Comtesse de Tournay's young son, Vicomte, challenges Sir Percy Blakeney for a duel. But Percy didn't accept that challenge, as he took it in a funny way or as a fun. Let's move on to the next slide. Characters of Chapter 7. Armand St. Just, Sir Percy Blakeney, Margaret St. Just, and the Marquis de Censeur. The Marquis de Censeur, he is a member of the French aristocracy actually. There is another character here, Chauvelin, who is an accredited agent of the French Republic and an antagonist of the Scarlet Pimpernel. Let's move on to the next slide. See the summary of chapter 7. Name of this chapter is The Secret Orchard. Margaret leaves the inn to wait for her brother and to talk in private. Armand St. is about to leave England and moving back to France. Margaret shows her affection towards her brother. Both of them have the same thoughts and the same enthusiasm for liberty and equality. Margaret doesn't want to leave her brother Armand as she is really cared about his safety. She tells him that he is the only one who could care for her. Armand reminds her of her husband, Percy Blakeney. He asks her whether Percy knows that her role in the arrest of Marquis de Censeur. Next slide, the continuation of the chapter 7. She told about her role after their marriage, but she found out that he had already known about it, and she felt that it had broken their love. She confessed that she didn't marry him for money or title, but for his everlasting love and attention. Armand was a youth and Margaret was a child when they lost their parents. Armand was 8 years senior to her. This was Armand's first visit to England since her marriage. Armand is moving away, but she fears for his safety. At the same time, she longed for his presence. Let's see the next slide. The characters of chapter 8. Armand St. Margaret St. Sir Percy Blakeney, Chauvelin, Ainsley St. So let's see the summary of chapter 8. The name of this chapter is The Accredited Agent. This chapter opens with Margaret with heavy heart watching her brother Armand St. sail off to France. She sees the lights from the fisherman's inn. She fondly thinks about her husband's good qualities like thinking ability and generosity. Then the intensity and visibility of his love seemed to vanish completely. She hated the Marquis. Years ago, Armand St. her dear brother, loved Ainsley de Censeur. But St. was a plebeian and the Marquis had complete pride and arrogant prejudices of his caste. Plebeian was the lower class of people in Roman times. As a result of Armand's love towards Ainsley de Censeur, a girl from Sir family, he was terribly attacked by the men of Marquis de Censeur just outside Paris. Armand was literally thrashed like a dog due to his love towards the daughter of the aristocrat. Later, letters from the Austrian emperor promising to send troops against the Paris populace were found in his desk. Let's see the next slide, which is the continuation of the same chapter 8. So, Margaret understood that the Marquis was in treasonous correspondence with Austria. Then she publicly denounced him. He was summoned for treason against the nation and sent to the guillotine. Not only Marquis, but his family, his wife, and his sons also become the victim of the guillotine. Though she denounced him publicly, she did not intend to get them killed. She intended to humiliate him, but his death was due to fate and the French Republic. That's how Margaret is morally innocent in his death. After marriage, Margaret confessed everything to Percy Blakeney, trusting his blind love for her. But after that confession, she did not feel the intensity of his love towards her. Now they had drifted quite apart. Lady Blakeney also tried to get back his love by throwing her wit against his dull intellect. Margaret felt complete loneliness when she turns back to the fisherman's inn. She met her old friend Chauvelin. Continuation of this chapter. She was extremely happy meeting him, but she didn't notice a cunning thought behind his smile. Chauvelin, in a serious tone, approached Margaret to render a small service as a daughter of France. Chauvelin is the representative of Republican government of France. His duty is to find out all about the League of the Scarlet Pimpernel. Though Margaret is a Republican, she doesn't agree with the policies of Republican government. She didn't accept to favor Chauvelin for identifying the Scarlet Pimpernel. So that's the end of chapter 8. Next, let's see chapter 9. Characters of chapter 9: Lord Anthony Dewhurst, Sir Andrew Ffoulkes, the Scarlet Pimpernel, the Comtesse d'Eterney, Chauvelin, Armand St-Just, and Margaret St-Just. The summary of chapter 9. Name of this chapter is The Outrage. This shorter chapter opens with Percy and Lady Blakeney going for a long drive in a magnificent coach driven by 4 thoroughbreds. She felt the same loneliness even in the drive. At the same time, at the inn, there were a few important guests for Mr. Jellyband, named the Comtesse d'Eterney, Suzanne, the Vicomte, Sir Andrew Ffoulkes, and Lord Anthony Dewhurst. The two men, Sir Andrew Ffoulkes and Lord Anthony Dewhurst, proceed to discuss the recent escape of Comtesse d'Eterney and her 2 children to England along with the help of the Scarlet Pimpernel. There, Scarlet Pimpernel, disguised as an old market woman, and was driving the cart safely out of the city in the covered cart, and inside of it Comtesse d'Eterney, Suzanne, and the Vicomte lay concealed among the turnips and cabbages. Even Comtesse d'Eterney and her 2 children did not even suspect who their driver was. Sir Andrew Ffoulkes told Anthony Dewhurst that Scarlet Pimpernel wants Dewhurst and Hastings to meet him at Calais on the 2nd of next month. Then he continues to tell about the recent news that French government has taken place, that is the accredited agent Chauvelin, and he has terrible bit against their league, and he determined to discover the identity of their leader. Chauvelin has brought a whole army of spies with him. Sir Andrew Ffoulkes thinks that Chauvelin may have him kidnapped if he attempts to set foot in France next time. So they plan that not to meet each other unnecessarily. When they read the special instructions through a slip of paper, both of them are attacked by a strange person emerges from under the bench. Both men are seized and carried away. All this happened within the short space of 2 or 3 seconds, before they could either cry or defend. The master man in charge of the kidnapping takes possession of the papers. One of the letters was from Armand St-Just, Margaret's brother. We have come to the last chapter, chapter 10. Characters of this chapter: Lord Grenville, who is the head of the Secretary of State in England. He wishes he could turn his back on Chauvelin, an accredited agent of France, but diplomacy dictates otherwise, and Lord Grenville is forced to accept and even entertain him. The Comtesse d'Eterney, Chauvelin, Lady Portals. Lady Portals, who is a member of the British High Society. She refers to the French revolutionists as bloodthirsty ruffians. Next character, the Scarlet Pimpernel, Sir Andrew Ffoulkes, Lord Anthony Dewhurst, and Armand St-Just. Let's move on to the summary of this chapter, chapter 10. Name of this chapter is In the Opera Box. High Society of London gathers at Covent Garden Theatre for a staging of Orpheus. Chauvelin is the guest of the evening. Comtesse d'Eterney and her children approach along with Lady Portals. She is a member of the British High Society. Comtesse is still worrying about her husband. Lord Grenville consoles her by giving assurance about the Scarlet Pimpernel. Sir Percy and Lady Blakeney arrive to the opera box. Chauvelin is Grenville's guest and is carefully watching the lovely Margaret as she enters with Sir Percy Blakeney for the third act of the stage play. Chauvelin waits for an opportunity to talk to Margaret, especially about his recent discoveries implicating her brother Armand with the Scarlet Pimpernel. The continuation of chapter 10. He conveyed her that he had found out a few letters from Sir Andrew Ffoulkes and Lord Anthony Dewhurst, and one of the letters was from her brother Armand St. Just. Chauvelin tells her clearly that if she helps him to find the identity of the Scarlet Pimpernel, her brother Armand would be free from the punishment. One of the letters is in Sir Andrew's possession, had been signed with a small drawing of a Scarlet Pimpernel, and tells that its writer would be at G's ball. Lady Blakeney tells him that G's ball is Grenville's ball. Chauvelin tells Margaret to observe clearly. So, if she helps Chauvelin, she will get her brother Armand's letter. This is how the chapter 10 ends. We have a short analysis of these chapters, chapter 6 to 10. Orczy, Baroness Orczy, skillfully portrays the characterization of Sir Percy Blakeney, the sleepiest, dullest, and the most British Britisher. He is an embodiment of all good qualities. He shows his dull face as Sir Percy Blakeney, but he evidently expresses his smartness and brilliance as the Scarlet Pimpernel. All his good qualities make him the ideal Englishman. Margaret is proud of her intelligence. Actually, Sir Percy Blakeney is the brilliant one, because he easily made Lady Blakeney to believe that he is brainless, which shows his brilliance than his wife's. He spent most of his life abroad. Orczy depicts Vicomte as a passionate and violent Frenchman when he challenges for a duel to Sir Percy Blakeney. Percy refuses to go for a duel with him. Lady Blakeney is anxious about her brother as he goes back to France. In the midst of this, Percy looks at her in a loving way without her knowledge. Armand and Margaret show an intense brother sister relationship. Their parents died when they were young, but after Margaret's marriage, they feel a slight distance between each other. Though they loved and cared about each other, they have some secrecy into which the other dared not to penetrate. Sir Percy condemns his wife both in public and in private due to her involvement in the arrest of the execution of the Marquis de Censor and his family. Margaret marries Sir Percy Blakeney for his complete love, attention, and admiration to her. But now Margaret feeling trapped in her loveless marriage to a fool. Margaret feels herself morally innocent in the death of Marquis de Censor and his family. She didn't do anything intentionally, but Percy doesn't believe her as an innocent in the death of them. Next slide. Margaret must know that Chauvelin is an awful man, but she is excited to see him. Chauvelin forces her to help him to find the identity of the Scarlet Pimpernel. As a Republican, she can support Chauvelin, but instead she admires the Scarlet Pimpernel. She later accepts that she hates the French aristocrats, but she doesn't agree with the violence of the French Revolution. Armand and Margaret are loyal to their morality or moral instead of their country. So she doesn't agree with Chauvelin to help him to find and kill the Scarlet Pimpernel. But later, when she realizes that her brother Armand's life is in danger, she agrees with Chauvelin to help him. The complexity of the Scarlet Pimpernel's operations and how Armand St. Just is connected to the Pimpernel's rescue activities reveals. Dewhurst explains about the rescue of Comtesse de Ternay and her family to Sir Andrew Ffoulkes. When Andrew Ffoulkes and Anthony Dewhurst discuss the presence of Chauvelin in England, he himself was sneaking up on them in order to carry out his successful attack. The Covent Garden Theatre is an actual location first opened in 1732 but destroyed by fire and rebuilt twice in the 19th century. Today, it is known as London's Royal Opera House. Chauvelin is the guest of the day of opera. Though Margaret doesn't agree with the violent revolution, as she doesn't have another choice to save her devoted brother's life, she agrees with Chauvelin to help him, finding out the real identity of the Scarlet Pimpernel. Let's discuss the themes of this novel. The first theme is social class and the French Revolution. So, this historical novel, The Scarlet Pimpernel, takes place in the year 1792, roughly 3 years into the French Revolution. French peasants lived in a restricted life in the midst of the French aristocracy. The French lower class or the third estate people began to revolt or react against the French aristocracy in 1789. In 1792, King Louis XVI was imprisoned and the French Republic was also formed. Next theme, disguise, deception, and dual identity. Deception means the action of cheating someone. Our Percy Blakeney, disguised as the Scarlet Pimpernel, deceives the French government and saves innocent aristocrats from terrible death at the hands of the rebellion and guillotine. Loyalty means here we can take loyalty as a central theme of this novel. Loyalty to one's country, one's spouse, and one's family. The protagonist of the novel, The Scarlet Pimpernel, is loyal to his morality and supports the innocent aristocrats during the French Revolution. Last theme, pride and humility. The protagonist and title character of the novel, The Scarlet Pimpernel, act as an embodiment of humility. He takes the risk to save innocent aristocrats from the guillotine of the French Revolution. Due to his secret identity, he doesn't receive any formal reward or recognition for his good deeds. Hope you all understood. Thank you.